if you wait for me, then I'll come for you. Although I've traveled far, I always hold a place for
Next on our list is Clinton Moni, and I call upon him.
Right. A great footballer.
Gene Morris.
I used to really envy him.
I heard
I
about
used to
him.
envy him. Because I was also a footballer.
I joined Abu in 78, and one of the few guys who made the initial profound impression on me was Clinton with his soccer talent. And whatever soccer that I learned, I always tried to imitate my game based on what he did. All the moves that he did, I tried to do those moves. And Clinton was, especially in grade 10, we were very close. We were on the same team, St. John's. We hung out together. And I'm not too sure whether he actually passed grade 10.
No.
He did.
He did, yeah. He passed.
All of us passed.
Yeah, they all passed.
Yeah, but I know that I did spend a lot of time with him to try and, make sure that he passed and understood
Yeah, he used to
everything.
get up at 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to study.
Yeah,
2
I know
o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Yeah, he tried his best,
All right.
and he kind of paid more attention to his studies rather than his sports. And I'm not too sure exactly what happened, under what circumstances he passed away, but I felt really bad about it because I think the last thing that I did when I left school, I remember at the station, was Clinton actually hugging me and telling me, Gene, he says, you got to promise me, he says, don't stop playing football. And in all the years that I've finished from school, I've been fortunate enough to play soccer all these years. And I keep remembering Clinton, and his words to me. If there's anyone else who can add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add something about Clinton. Now, all of you might remember, he was the ultimate entertainer in class.
All right. A joker, you would say. A joker.
I was pretty close to him. And
My
I remember
God.
meeting Gene in Delhi many years back, and I told him, and even he told me, if ever there's one guy who you'd like to single out, you'd like to meet right away, Clinton Morris. Both of us.
No, yeah, and I just remembered. I remember Clinton in chapel, during mass, clipping his fingernails, and the Christian brothers would be looking around like, who the fuck is doing that, Riding the horse, mass is going on, and you could hear Clinton on his horse.
All right. Yeah, he was up to all the tricks.
If there was one guy who was daring, it was him.
Right.
I don't think he had any fear in him.
He was likable, very likable. Everybody liked him.
Very jovial, very
He was
jovial.
the guy who actually pulled that snake out of that hole, right? That was Clinton. Yeah.
He was
Fearless.
He's an average.
Yeah.
You go to Mr. Ober's class. Snake? Do you remember?
I only remember one Anil Tandon taking the stick out of my hand and throwing it out. I'm giving walloping Anil Tandon.
Robert was distracted by the Dire Straits playing.
I'd like to add a word. Clinton was the first guy who brought in the video game on his watch. I don't know if any of you remember that.
Calculator watch.
This is one guy.
The fact he was from the musket, so he had all the
It's
technology.
true, but you didn't need to share it. But he shared that watch with every single person. And that is something I wouldn't share.
I'll tell you what the watch.
That's how we all pass
Watch
maths.
landed in my hand also. I said, Clinton, I don't have a proper watch. He said, you can use the watch. So I used it for about 1 or 2 weeks. So I said, now Clinton, you can take your watch back. So I think he took it out, and the first thing I heard, he threw it in the air. Jeeps. He said, whoever can operate it, throw it there.
No, he was
That watch, I don't know whose hand it went to, but I know I wore it for at least 1 month or so.
Yeah.
And he never bothered. He was in fact annoyed when I returned the watch.
to
I didn't know he was annoyed. Because he hardly stepped out of the room. He went out and he threw it up in the air. That must have been the same watch.
Well, yeah, it's the same watch. It's
But at
exactly
least
the
I
same.
was one of the last probably to wear it.
He was an amazing guy, and he was one thing I remember about him is his absolute fearlessness, like you said. absolutely naughty guy. Absolutely naughty guy. He could come out with a prank and he could entertain every single person. Even though he sometimes used to be so naughty, he could hurt people also. But you never kept it against him. That's one thing.
Pranks in the locker room.
I'll give you an example of Clinton and me. We used to share the same desk, okay, in class 10. And Hindi pop was teaching. Right?
Pop.
All right. So he would tell me what to tell this guy so we can have fun. So the word ullu came up. Now Clinton was the last fellow who would ask any teacher anything, what does this mean, or please explain again, or whatever. He's the last guy. So I told him, okay, ask him the meaning of the word ullu. So Hindi pop got very excited. Ullu means owl. All right. बहुत अच्छा बेटे, he told him. बैठ जाओ. When I told him, okay, now you ask him. पट्ठा. हाँ अभी.
उल्लू का पट्टा.
सर एक उल्लू का पट्ठा भी होता है. Ask him. हाँ होता है. Hindi pop. This fellow was studying today. He's asking questions. Right? उल्लू का पट्टा कौन होता है? Foolish guy. उल्लू का पट्टा. Right? Okay, sit down. Then he stood up again on his own and he went up to him and he said, "तू उल्लू का पट्टा." Okay, that's what he said. "तू उल्लू का पट्टा." And he got a whack. Pop used to whack, bang. That was it.
Pop was solid.
All right, any guess?
Yes.
Is there anybody else who would like to add?
Just a painful experience. You mentioned a lot of pranks being played.
Yes.
I remember obviously getting a yellow card or something, and we had extra lessons to have, so you can be a little bit cleverer than the others, right? So there I was sitting doing my work out there, and suddenly Clinton decides this is too boring, right, for him, because why the hell? He was also in the class. He's obviously a good yellow carder like me,
Hey, I was one of them.
So there you are. You were always there.
No.
Yeah, but I don't even remember that. But out of the blue, this guy gets bored, something itching in his ass, I guess, right? And he takes a divider. Hey man! Boom! He just throws it at me, and I have it here, right? And it bloody hangs, right? It's the biggest injection I've ever had. A divider in my arm, just dangling out there, right? I had no clue what to do. And like someone mentioned, you can't get angry with Muniz, Clinton, but just love the guy's character of doing shit.
Let me add another one about the divider. This guy put the divider under my ass while I was just about to sit.
Sit down.
Luckily for me, I don't know how, but I just turned around because I knew this guy was around. And there it was, the divider.
Anyway, 3 cheers for Clinton. Yeah.
Hip hip. Toast for Clinton.
Hip hip. Hooray. Hip hip.
Hooray.
But
Sydney Fernandez, and I call upon Ashley Rodriguez. If you was
Ashley, yeah.
John also would like to say something. So John, you go first.
You want me to go first? Okay, let's roll that.
Hemant, take this one, right?
Hemant, Alana. And someone needs to place the order here for the food.
Sydney again joined us, I think, towards a little later, around 79 or something, he joined us, along with Raj Lobo. So Sydney automatically became a good friend of mine. And again, another thing about which we all remember about Sydney is his absolute gentleness. He was one person who could not be naughty, who could not hurt anybody, and he could only have a nice word to for people, Absolutely. And when you come to him, you could only be you could feel encouraged, and you could. There's one person you could confide without him holding anything against.
Yeah. Anyone. Yeah.
So Sydney and me were pretty close at school, and then after school, I'll go after school because a lot of it goes after school. Sydney and me, he used to stay at Colaba, I used to go over there, we used to sit at the gateway and chat for hours. I mean, we'd talk till 12 in the night and just chat for hours, and this was just after school. When? Then 82? 83, 84, for a few years. Then Sydney moved out to the States and everything. He started, he said the best education he got was, he only started appreciating studies was in the States. Till then he didn't understand education, he didn't like it also. And Sydney and me connected much later. I think one of our first meetings around the time we met at Hemant's house in Matunga. And we became close again. Sydney was very gentle and very intellectual, and he used to do market research for a living. And all the time we used to meet all the time. Means in the middle of the night, sit and chat and everything. One day, Sidney was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So I visited him in hospital, and he said, "I've got pancreatic cancer." Met his family, everything. Everyone was kind of anxious and worried and everything. And Sidney told me that pancreatic cancer is the highest death rate, whatever. People, So. But we were all positive, and like time passed, years passed. Even we had a get-together at my place, and John Joy was there. I know he bought a lot of perfumes, John Joy, for gifts for everybody, and all that. Sidney was with cancer. He came all the way. I think Clive dropped him back home. And then Sidney, the cancer got worse. He was heading towards terminal stages. I was still visiting him all the time and keeping in touch. He was moved into Shanti Avedna in Bandra, and I would visit him every day. And he was then became unconscious, and I was and I still visit him. And one day I visited him. It was towards the end, and it was after hours, also visiting hours, and I was still sitting over there chatting with his mom and dad, and Sidney started breathing his last. He started missing breaths, and his mom and dad got so distressed that they ran out of the room, and I was alone in the room holding his hand while he breathed his last. And he was like John said, a really gentle soul, very sweet and serious about life, but he had a funny sense of humor. And so I was holding Sidney's hand while he died, and yeah, I'm still in touch with his family. We go occasionally and meet him and his family, and that's about Sidney from my side after school.
Did he get married?
No, Sidney never got married. No.
Do you know what his pet name was? Anybody?
Potter.
You got it. He had a pet name. It was Potter.
Potter. He had a cousin in lower class. Yeah.
Rajendra Lobo.
And Sidney was from Kuwait.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers to Sydney. Yeah.
Next we have
You know the much in the gym.
follow on keep to serve you.
Keep you sober, right?
Very long.
Sorry, my voice is gone. More often than not, we forget the contribution of day scholars in our lives. And Pradeep Oza was one of those rare individuals. His heart was pure. I think his mother put chapatis on, which she sent with him to school, and we all whacked it. So, earliest memories of him was this guy bringing his lunch, and we being half-starved blokes to whack it for anything homemade. And the biggest cucumbers I ever seen in my life, he should put glucose tea and have it. So Ashley might remember that. And so we had a great relationship in school. It was pure, and then about 6 years later, his son contacted me through my mom back in Bombay, and he shifted to Kandivali. And from there on, it was like great guns. Like those years had just disappeared, and we went back to the days that we had. And he used to always call up in Sydney, and he said, "Hey, you not called me for 1 month. What's wrong with you? Are you alright?" And a few months down the line, I called him up, and it was remiss on my part. A few months, no one answering the phone. A few months later, no one answering the phone. And then it's pretty careless on my part. I didn't bother contacting him when I came down. 6 months later, his sister calls up my mom. So my mom says, "Everything all right, dear?" And she says, Pradeep was representing a big software company back in Canada, and he was 24/7, 365 days a year. I said, "Yeah, he was having a meeting in Delhi, and then he came down to Bombay, went into hospital, and never woke again. And he had brought his 12-year-old daughter to my house, and prior to that, about 8 months before. But his heart was always pure. And, what more can I say? He was a great bloke. He was a great friend. He took the trouble, like we all have taken the trouble to meet up today. And let's not ever forget that at the end of the day. So let's drink to our brotherhood, But you know, class of 82, still rocking dudes.
Close to Pradeep Oza. To Pradeep. Yeah, yeah.
A place